Okay, so let's jump right into one of the most confusing statements in the entire Bible. I mean, it's a real head scratcher, right? It seems to completely contradict everything we think we know about Jesus. Yeah, so how do we square this? How can the person we call the Prince of Peace turn around and say he's here to bring a sword? It feels like a huge contradiction, doesn't it? But, and this is the cool part, the answer is actually hidden in plain sight, just waiting for us to find it. All right, let's just lay it all out on the table. On one side, you've got the prophet Isaiah's famous prediction. You know the one, calling the Messiah the Prince of Peace. But then you've got Jesus himself in the book of Matthew saying pretty much the exact opposite. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. So what gives? How on earth do we make sense of that?
Okay, to really get to the bottom of this, we have to look at the full context of what Jesus said. And believe me, it gets even more intense than just talking about bringing a sword.
I mean, he goes on to talk about the most painful kind of division you can imagine, right inside your own family. He's literally saying he came to turn a father against his son, a mother against her daughter. Wow. This isn't just some poetic metaphor. He's warning them about a deep, painful split that starts at the very heart of society, the family home. And here's the absolute key to understanding all of this: the context. See, Jesus isn't just making some random aggressive statement out of the blue. He's actually preparing his followers. He's setting them up for the harsh reality of the mission they're about to go on. It's like he's telling them, hey, listen up. This is not going to be easy. He's managing their expectations, but in a really, really direct way. So, the tool that unlocks this whole mystery, it's a really fascinating ancient teaching technique. You can almost think of it as a kind of ancient hyperlink. It's called a remes. So picture this: a speaker, maybe a rabbi, quotes just one short, memorable line from a much bigger text. That one little line is designed to act like a trigger, like that hyperlink we mentioned. The idea was that it would make the entire original story from the Old Testament just come flooding back into the listener's mind. Pretty smart, right? And that's why, with a remes, context is absolutely everything. The real meaning isn't just in the little snippet that's quoted. No, the real meaning is in the entire passage that it's linking back to. And Jesus, he was counting on his disciples knowing their scriptures well enough to click on that mental hyperlink and follow it back to the source.
So, the big question is, where was Jesus' hyperlink pointing? Well, he was directing his disciples' attention to a very powerful and very specific warning from an Old Testament prophet named Micah.
And when you actually put the verses side by side, I mean, the connection is just undeniable. It's almost word for word. Jesus knew that for his disciples, the people who grew up on these scriptures, hearing these very specific phrases about family breaking apart would be like a giant neon sign flashing, Micah chapter 7. So what was going on back in Micah's time that was so important? Well, to put it bluntly, it was a time of deep societal rot. I'm talking leaders who were totally corrupt, a justice system that was basically for sale, and the entire social fabric was just unraveling. Why? Because the nation as a whole had turned its back on God. And then, there it is, the origin of the sword. Right there in Micah's prophecy. The sword isn't a literal weapon for battle. It's the inevitable consequence of all that corruption. It's a symbol for the judgment and the loss that always follows when a society decides to just abandon truth and justice. So you see, by using this remes, Jesus is making an incredibly powerful and, frankly, unsettling statement to his followers. He's essentially saying, hey guys, remember that awful societal decay Micah warned about centuries ago? Well, guess what? It's happening all over again. Right here. Right now. And you're about to walk straight into the middle of it all.
But wait, the story doesn't just end there with a gloomy warning of corruption and division. Not at all. Because that ancient hyperlink to Micah, it also carries a powerful message of hope. And it introduces a concept that is absolutely crucial to understand, the idea of the remnant.
Okay, so let's be super clear. The sword that Jesus brings isn't a literal physical weapon. It's a powerful metaphor. It represents the sharp, clean, and totally unavoidable division that happens when truth cuts through a corrupt and comfortable system. His message forces people to make a choice, and that choice, well, it always creates a divide.
And this is the part that Jesus absolutely wanted his disciples to hang on to. Just one single verse after describing all that terrible, heartbreaking family division, Micah pivots and declares his hope. He says that even in the middle of all the chaos, even when everything seems to be falling apart, there is still a promise of salvation for those who wait for God.
This points to that powerful idea we mentioned, the remnant. It's a theme you see woven all through the Old Testament, and the concept is actually pretty simple. It's the idea that even when an entire nation goes off the rails and becomes corrupt, God always preserves a small group, a faithful few who refuse to let go of the truth.
And think about what this does to the disciples' expectations. It completely flips them on their head. You see, a lot of them were probably hoping for a military-style Messiah, someone who would lead an army and save the entire nation of Israel from the Romans. But Jesus, by pointing back to Micah, is telling them, nope, that's not the plan at all. The real plan is to find and save his faithful remnant from within the corrupt system itself. So, let's wrap this all up. What are the key takeaways? First, the sword isn't about violence. It's a symbol for the division that truth causes in a dark world. Second, that division forces everyone to make a choice. And it's that choice that reveals God's faithful few, his remnant. And maybe most importantly, this shows that even in the middle of all that conflict and division, the ultimate message is one of incredible hope.
And that leaves us with a pretty challenging final thought to take with us. If truth really is the sword that creates division, especially in a world that often prefers comfortable lies, then where should we expect to see those lines of conflict being drawn? Not just out there in the world, but in our own lives too. It's definitely something to think about.